The following program is the work of the broadcast students at the British Columbia Institute of Technology. BCIT magazine features news stories from around the Lower Mainland, which were produced over the last week. Responsibility for the content of the show rests completely with the students and their instructors.
Coming up on BCIT magazine, a Surrey advocate group broadens their focus.
To Canuck legends hang up their skates.
And a different kind of baseball team begins their season.
Hi, and welcome to BCIT magazine. I'm Dennis Arellano.
And I'm Ryan Lehal.
A Surrey advocate group lost out in the battle over the connector project running through Hawthorne Park. But as my co-anchor Ryan Lehal tells us, this group is now looking to expand its focus.
Wake up! Wake up!
A lot has changed at Surrey's Hawthorne Park. In the span of 3 months, hundreds of trees have fell, and the park is now closed to the public. But one Surrey advocate group that pushed to save the park has not lost hope for the future.
We got beat up. When you get beat up, you don't admit defeat. You just, suck it in, and you learn from it, and you push forward, and you stop that from happening to other people. So anytime you get bullied by somebody, you don't admit defeat.
The group is expanding their focus, changing their name from Save Hawthorne Park to Save Surrey Parks, to make sure this doesn't happen in another neighborhood.
Oh, it's loud. It's so loud that we would have difficulty talking, and the ground is shaking with the vibrations of the different steamrollers and the compactors, so it's very loud. Praise God, this weekend, no noise. They're taking a break for Easter. It was beautiful. It was just thick forest, and you look, and that's all I see is forest, and that's gone. And now all I see is apartment buildings and roads and traffic. So that's been an impact. The picnic area is gone. Now we just have buildings and cars.
Another local resident who once lived next to the park over 50 years ago echoes those sentiments.
It's not the same. It's, you used to be able to drive and park way back there, and you'd watch the children playing in the playground. People would picnic all the way from the back right to the road here where there was grass. It was a nice place for children to play.
The fight to save Hawthorne Park has taken a toll on the group, but Cab says it's important that they go on.
I was asked why at my age I'm doing something like this, and I don't want my grandchildren to say to me, "Why didn't you do anything, Grandma?" And I can say I tried. And I think that's the thing with everybody, they should try.
The group is expected to make the switch official in the coming weeks. Ryan Lehal in Surrey for BCIT magazine.
Interesting story, Ryan. Now, I'd imagine with all the trees being cut down that it's going to affect wildlife one way or the other. Did Pettigrew mention anything about that?
Well, Pettigrew says he's seen a dramatic decrease in the amount of wildlife in the area. He says the park used to be filled with all kinds of birds, and that he even mentioned on one instance that he saw a raccoon trapped up against one of the blue fences.
And what about the city? Did they mention anything about that?
Well, the city has maintained that the 105 Avenue Connector project will actually increase the total size of the park, and that they will be investing in wildlife crossings, but we're going to have to wait and see. It's the end of an era for the Vancouver Canucks as Henrik and Daniel Sedin announced they'll retire at the end of the season. Henrik says they wanted to end their careers while they could still contribute on the ice.
It's the right timing for us to leave now when we still feel that we can play. We've been a part of a coaching staff and a group that we really enjoyed working with, and it's they're top notch. I mean we can't say enough good things about Travis as a coach, and so that feels good to leave that way.
The Sedins will leave a big hole in the Canucks lineup next year, but team president Trevor Linden says he's going to miss watching them play more than anything else.
They played the game in such a unique way. The way they've created time and space with their ability to find one another and put pucks into dead zones is just has been so much fun to watch for so long, and I'll miss watching that.
The Twins were drafted by the Canucks in 1999 and played 17 seasons for the team. They hold many franchise records, including games played and points scored.
Baseball season is starting again, and our reporter Dan Mountain tells us about a unique league that's starting this spring.
The opportunity to play sports can change a child's life. Whether it's the friends made or the pure love of the game, everyone deserves the chance to play. The Cloverdale Spurs are a baseball team that gives people with physical and cognitive disabilities that chance. The Spurs are a part of BC's Challenger Baseball League, a league where each player gets a buddy to help them play baseball. They accept players of any age, and with the season quickly approaching in mid-April, both the parents and the kids can't wait for the season to start.
It really sucked because he saw his brother and his sisters playing sports, and he kept saying, I just really want to play a sport. So to have his own thing, and that's what he was so proud, because it's his baseball. And he says that, this is my baseball. This is what sports is about, because they don't care who wins, they don't care. They just are pure joy for 1 hour. It is the best hour of our week.
Make me happy. Make all of us happy, yeah. Someone care about us.
I try to tell people, like, as a parent, you can't describe to somebody what it's like to love your child. I still can't convey to people the impact this has on families. He can't wait to go, and if we can't, it is heartbreaking. Whereas my other son who plays baseball, if his game is rained out, who cares? He'll just make it up later on. They don't have the same kind of opportunities.
Whether it's about a child's laughter, achieving something you didn't know that you could, or even if it's just about the smiles, Challenger Baseball represents what it means to truly play sports. Dan Mountain in Cloverdale for BCIT Magazine.
Coming up on BCIT Magazine, a local group helps a village on the other side of the world.
And we talked to a Burnaby mayor candidate with an unusual background.
Journalism's changed a lot in the last 20 years, and BCIT's been at the forefront of that evolution.
Those are your news updates for Evolution 1079 News.
Now it seems like the industry is changing by the minute, so now, more than ever, we're taught how to adapt.
The federal government unveiled a new immigration plan that would
When I first started at BCIT, there was only one thing that I really wanted to do in journalism, and this program really opened my eyes to all the avenues of employment. And now I feel really confident that I have the skills to get hired.
From day one, you're out there chasing down stories.
You aren't just sitting in a classroom reading about journalism, you are a journalist.
BCIT Newsroom. I look back at the work I was doing even 3 months ago, and it's just amazing to see how far you can come in such a little bit of time. This program really teaches you skills and techniques to learn how to better communicate.
Jamie Dodd in Vancouver.
In New Westminster.
In Burnaby.
For BCIT Magazine.
A local clothing drive took place to help develop a South African village. Our reporter Lloyd Nellis talked to the individuals behind it.
Alana Morin and her group spent their Saturday morning collecting clothes for the village of Botshabelo.
All of the clothes that we raised today, they'll be weighed, and then the company we've partnered with, which is Transcontinental Textile Recycling, they're going to be making a donation. So all the clothes that we get today will be weighed and in exchange for a donation.
Botshabelo is in South Africa and over 16,000 kilometers away. The group visited last year and made improvements on the village's energy system.
All of the work that we're doing with this community is to help them reach their goals of living independently from the grid and being a model sustainable African village. That's really what they want to be. And so we're working with them to carry out a variety of different projects.
The Community for a Sustainable World group have already set up solar pumps in Botshabelo after realizing how much their original water system cost. Imagine the solar panels we have here at BCIT to help charge electric cars. Except instead of doing that, they're pumping water around an entire village. The group hasn't stopped there though. They've set up classes in rooms like this to teach Botshabelo's children about sustainable energy.
You know, just going in and throwing up solar panels, it creates an impact, but you need a lot more to create a sustained long-term impact to actually, you know, change mentality, change the way that they kind of view their power. Like there's so many pieces to it, you can't just go in and, you know, throw a Band-Aid on the top of it.
The group will have several other events in the upcoming months to raise even more for the Boccabello Energy effort. Lloyd Nellis in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
We are now joined by our reporter Lloyd Nellis. Lloyd, you mentioned that Boccabello's water system was inefficient. Could you elaborate?
Sure. The group did an audit in Boccabello a year before installing the solar pumps and found that 16.5% of their monthly energy consumption was used on pumping water. Now they've cut that down by 7.5% with these solar pumps and are saving about 2,000 Canadian dollars annually.
What's next for the group and Boccabello?
The group has various fundraisers planned. This includes things like dance, boxing, and yoga classes, and the money raised from those will help create a library and a rec center for the village, as well as help Boccabello residents get training in things like carpentry and plumbing, as well as leadership and management classes. Back to you.
Thanks, Lloyd. Burnaby's municipal election is coming up this fall, and Mayor Derek Corrigan is attempting to win his 6th consecutive term, but he'll have some competition. Our producer Mack Britton spoke to punk rocker and politician Joe Keithley.
Thanks, guys. We're outside the BCIT Burnaby campus with Joe Keithley. Joe, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. We want to talk about you running for Burnaby mayor.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a little bit of a different background, I understand. How did you transition from punk rock to politics?
As a lot of people would know, I played in the band called DOA, like a politically active punk rock band since 1978, the last 40 years. And a lot of what we've done along the way is like fighting for people's rights. So I've been kind of like a alternative type of politician, not officially running for office. And now I'm trying to make that jump into office with the same principles.
So why Burnaby?
I grew up here. I grew up on the mountain, 2 blocks away from the Kinder Morgan pipe farm, tank farm, I should say. And I raised a family here, and I love this town. And I want to make it a better town than it is.
Speaking of Kinder Morgan, that's a pretty big issue in Burnaby. Where do you stand on it?
You know what? That we would do if I was a mayor, elected mayor. I would do everything in my power to try and stop it, because I think it's like a waste of taxpayers' money. It's an ecological disaster for our Burrard Inlet and the Salish Sea, and it's also a danger for 45,000 people that live in the potential kill zone if there was a fire. So we would do everything in our power to stop it. It's actually really, it's a First Nations issue in large part, but it's also been like a green issue for like years and years before the current mayor became interested in it.
Also a big issue in Burnaby is the housing crisis, both in Burnaby and Vancouver. Do you have some sort of stance on that?
Yeah, one of the things we're going to try and stop is the demo evictions in the Maywood area, Maywood Metro Town area. And what we would do by way of city bylaw is to make or get developers to replace rental units on a 1-for-1 basis with a similar rent, maybe a 10% increase or something like that. So, and that would allow the density bonus to happen there. We'd also get them to provide, and this would be like, on a research basis driven, like scientific means, and that's what we do in the Green Party, is like if there's a daycare needed there, then they would have to provide facilities for a daycare as well. Because it's not just one thing, like to build the buildings up and then provide no services. You don't have like adequate fire department, parks and recreation in these areas. You have to look at the big picture. The thing about the Green Party is what we're proposing for Burnaby is not just growth, but smart growth.
Fair enough. And you've run for different offices before, Vancouver included. What makes this kind of run different?
I think I got a real good shot here. Because usually like provincial politics, I run there like 4 times, is that it's really leader driven, right? So, I mean, when I ran the provincial election just this last May, a lot of people really liked what I was talking about, like the ideas that was coming up. And a lot of people in Burnaby knew me because I grew up here, right? And known from the band too, obviously. But they said, Joe, we like you, but we really dislike Christy Clark. So the vote went that way, and we know what's happening in Victoria now.
That's kind of how
kind of the bottom line. If somebody's so unpopular, like a lot of like what we're trying to do here, like my running for the Burnaby Green Party here for mayor and for our councillors and stuff like that, is give people something to vote for as opposed to vote against.
Right. Okay. So speaking of how people knew you in the band, that's gotta be hard to kind of balance being the front member of a pretty popular touring album making band still, and also wanting to run for a pretty prominent seat in a city government. How does that work for you?
I just balance it out. Like I play probably like 70 shows a year, right? So what I've done, we lined up all the tours in the first part of the year. So my schedule is totally clear when the election comes around. And you know what? I don't have anything booked afterwards because I'm expecting to win. I'm in it to win it.
Fair enough, fair enough. Is there anything else you wanted to add about your campaign?
Well, the other thing we're going to try and do is restore some sense of democracy to Burnaby. It's been the same council and the same mayor, same school trustees for the past 3 elections, like a clean sweep. So we're trying to change that up and also allow different community groups to have their say, because a lot of times if they're not friends or associates of the mayor or the BCA council, they don't really get a chance to promote their platform. So one thing we would do is make sure that anybody, citizens groups are on arts committees, sports, that kind of thing, is that the approval of that does not go through the mayor's office like it currently does. We want like an independent body to look at and go like, these are worthy people that would try and enhance our city. I mean, all those people are like, they want to get involved because they're good people and they care about their town. So we want to give them that opportunity. So democracy.
All right. We're here at BCIT Burnaby campus with Joe Keithley. Thank you so much for joining us, Joe.
Yeah, thank you very much.
The owners of East Van's Rio Theatre still have time to save the venue. They're trying to raise $3 million to buy the building back from the current landlords. A fundraising drive last week raised more than $380,000, including a donation from Vancouver actor Ryan Reynolds.
Vancouver's real estate market has slowed down in March. The Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver says the number of sales has dropped by 29% from March of last year. The board also mentioned that the new home listings are at the lowest level since 2013. Still to come on BCIT Magazine, a trip through Gastown's past.
And a warning about pet rabbits.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Teresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Mac, I am so sick and tired of being cooped up indoors.
Yeah, man, me too. But I know some fun things we can do.
BC Beer Wars is on April 8th. It's a charity boxing event where some of BC's craft brewers get in the ring and duke it out.
The Sea to Sky cheerleading competition runs April 7th through April 8th at the Vancouver Convention Centre.
The Vancouver Whitecaps return to BC Place on April 13th. Get your tickets online.
Bars around Vancouver are hosting WrestleMania this Sunday. Oh!
You can catch the wrestling extravaganza at the Charles Bar or the Shark Club.
Gastown is a popular spot for tourists, but as our reporter Arellano 2 tells us, one Vancouver man is sharing a different side of the neighborhood.
Lively Gastown is mainly known for its whistling steam clock, a mix of souvenir shops, indie art galleries, and hip eateries, making it a very popular tourist destination in Vancouver. But rarely do you hear about the darker side of Gastown's history.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening.
Rowan Jang is a Vancouverite who shares his passion for history by leading a tour through Gastown. But he doesn't lead the tour as Rowan Jang.
My name is George Turrell. Born Windsor, Ontario, 1855.
Jang leads the tours as a fictional character created to share true stories and bring tourists to the scene of murders, body houses, when the smallpox outbreak swept through the city, and the devastating fire of 1886 that destroyed Vancouver in less than 1 hour.
I love doing it. I was very fortunate to always have an interest both in performing, in theater, and in history. Those were my two greatest subjects in school.
The tours have become a full-time job for Jang, but he says he wouldn't choose to be doing anything else.
The stories I get to tell on this tour are not just the stories of a city to me, they're the story of where I come from, and sharing it with people all over the world is a wonderful thing.
Next time you're walking through Gastown, just think, you could be walking past some mysterious history. Alana Atu, BCIT Magazine.
Bunnies may look like the perfect family pet, but as my co-anchor Dennis Arellano found out, rabbit ownership comes with its own risks.
As Easter was approaching, the BCS-BCA reminded parents that it's better to give children this instead of this. The organization released a statement last week as a plea to parents that each year the shelter receives dozens of abandoned rabbits after Easter.
The biggest problem for us and for most rescues is the abandoned bunny becomes an abandoned bunny because people buy them at pet stores or off Craigslist on impulse.
Statement says bunnies are abandoned because the excitement of a new pet wears off and the reality of taking care of a pet sets in.
They especially don't know that they go through a juvenile period where you buy this really cute, sweet little baby bunny who's like snuggling and just so ridiculously friendly. And then they hit puberty and they become bunnies from hell.
Rabbitats is an organization that fights to provide rabbits with safe enclosures and had an event to raise donations. People in the community came and admired these cute little furry creatures, some barely holding in their excitement.
I love animals, so basically that's why I'm here, and I know that there's lots of animals that need all kinds of help and everything like that, and they're always short of volunteers.
Pet shops across countries such as Australia and England suspended the sales of rabbits over Easter to prevent any impulse buying.
I'd like people to be lobbying their municipalities for better rabbit control.
Canada hasn't thrown the idea to suspend animal purchases or adoptions during holidays, but people have been lobbying for a change, even starting a campaign to motivate people to buy chocolate and toy bunnies rather than real ones. Dennis Arellano in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
So Dennis, just how difficult is it to care for a rabbit?
Well, one of the reasons that people don't really realize is that these creatures can live for up to 12 years. Now, domestic rabbits are very similar to wild rabbits, so they need two things. They need a companion and they need shelter. Rabbits often get scared and they either freeze or they run. So they need to be able to have a shelter where they can feel secure. The other one is a companion because rabbits tend to live in big groups. So to answer your question, is it hard to take care of a rabbit? Well, that depends. If you did your research, then it's not. Rabbits literally need just three things: food, shelter, and a companion.
Now let's say you've bought a rabbit out of impulse and you realize you can't take care of it anymore. What are your options?
Well, do your best to keep that rabbit. Oftentimes, the reason why people surrender the rabbits is because they don't have the time to be able to take care of it, and they feel sad that it's just sitting there. So if you just get a bigger enclosure and just bring in a friend, it won't need you. If you do need to surrender the rabbit though, try to contact every rescue center as much as you can until you get through. If that doesn't work, you can always try to rehome it through Craigslist. But you gotta be careful with that, so try not to give the rabbit away for free because there are people that try to buy those rabbits through Craigslist as food for their own animals.
Thanks, Dennis.
If you have any questions regarding the show, you can contact us at bcit-broadcast.com or bcitbroadcastnews.ca.
Thank you for watching this edition of BCIT Magazine. I'm Ryan Lehal.
And I'm Dennis Arellano. We leave you now at another look at some cute BC bunnies.